inside this briefcase, I have perhaps the most important tool that you'll need to begin your first day of high school. Would you like to see what it is? I appreciate the enthusiasm. I'll give you a hint. It's probably not what you think it is. It is, of course, a ladder. And this is perhaps the most important tool for high school. Because to go through high school, you need a ladder to climb high. This is, of course, an absurd joke. However, it does point to the truth. It said that in order to have what we have never had, we must be willing to do what we have never done. In order to achieve success at a higher level, we have to be willing to step up to the challenge. In other words, what got you into this room is not going to be what keeps you here. I can still remember when I was 12 years old, I did my very first magic show. And this was a big deal because when I was a little kid, my biggest, most wildest dream was to one day become a magician. I brought with me one of those magic tricks that I performed on the first time I did a magic show. Would you like to see it?
Yes.
Oh, yes. I was hoping you'd say that. Otherwise, this will be a very short magic show. I used this little box. I was just 12 years old. A very similar situation till today. I was out of school. There was only about 100 or so people around. But I used this box that I made myself. Perhaps you can tell. It says Magic Show. Pretty good for a 12-year-old. And inside the box, I had some playing cards. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards. I placed one of them away. And even though I placed one of them away, I still had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards. Everyone was so amazed, they were stunned silent, just like this. Perfect. And then all at once, everyone threw their hands up in the air and they said, "That's amazing!" Well, that was very good. That was very good for several of you. I saw the hands. I heard the words. For those of you who didn't participate, I don't blame you. You didn't know what was going to happen. You didn't know your role yet. So I'll tell you what, we're going to do this again. But this time, I'm going to tell you a slightly different story. Because when I was 12 years old, I did my first professional magic show that I was paid for. So if you're getting paid, you're a pro, right? But that wasn't my first show for a real audience. My first show for a real audience was for my family in my parents' living room. And I was just 6 years old. Did my very first magic show for a real audience when I was 6 years old. I didn't even know how to spell yet. Spelled magic with a J. And I had, there was only about 10 or so people gathered around. And I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards, little tiny 6-year-old hands. And I placed 1 and 2 cards inside the box. And yet, I still had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards. Everyone threw their hands up in the air and they said, "See, this is getting much better. This is much better. I'm seeing the hands, I'm hearing the words. There's just one thing we're lacking. We need a little more of that eagle spirit here. Alright? So I want to do this one last time, but this time we're going to get a little more excited. But I'm going to tell you a slightly different story. Because that was my first magic show for a real audience when I was 6 years old. But that wasn't my first actual magic show. You see, my first actual magic show was in my bedroom for my stuffed animals. And I was just 3 years old. I didn't even know how to make words yet. I just scribbled all over the box. I had about 5 animals gathered around. And I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 humongous cards, little tiny 3-year-old hands. And I placed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cards away. I was only 3. I didn't know how to count yet. So of the 5 cards, I put 9 of them away. And yet, I still had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards, and when all the cards disappeared, everyone was so amazed that all the stuffed animals said, "Give yourselves a nice taste." So that's a true story. It's a true story. But notice how over the years, with all the magic shows that I did, when I was 3, when I was 6, when I was 12, I never stopped improving. I never stopped getting comfortable just performing for stuffed animals, just performing for my family. I kept growing outside of my comfort zone so I could climb higher up that ladder. Because it's been said that in order to have what we've never had, we must be willing to do what we have never done. Because the same things that got you folks into this room today, it's not going to keep you here. In fact, it's kind of like being hypnotized. Have any of you been hypnotized before? Some of you, I hear some yeses, a lot of no's. If you haven't been hypnotized, or even if you have, especially if you have, you probably know that it's not some weird altered state of reality. All hypnotism is, it's a deep-seated willingness to play along. Well, to show you what hypnotism is kind of like, I brought with me a magic wand, and this is my special magic wand. Everyone go. I heard someone say it is indeed a spiral. The technical name for this device, this is called the Hypno-Disc. Everyone say it with me, Hypno-Disc. This was invented as an effective tool for inducing a hypnotic type state. If you're willing to play along, and I encourage all of you to do so, because this will perhaps be one of the coolest things you see today, but it will only work if you want it to work. It's only going to work if you're willing to play along. As I turn the disc, just stare right here at the center of the Hypno-Disc and breathe calm and breathe deep. For those of you who begin to fall under the spell of the disc, you may experience the visual expansion of the world around you. Don't worry, that is completely normal. As I count backwards from 3 to 1, when I get to 1, you will look away from the disc and you will look me in the eyes. 3, 2, 1, look me in the eyes. Something just now. Who experienced something? Several of you did. If you didn't experience something just now, well, that's fine, because you probably did something similar to what I did when I was 9 years old. You see, when I was 9 years old, I was in 4th grade, and I started taking saxophone lessons, and I was so good that my music teacher, Mrs. Negan, invited me to skip 2 grade levels in music so I could play with the 6th grade band. Now this was a big deal because little 4th grader hanging around with all the 6th graders, you know, I felt really cool, right? With all the older kids. So I remember on the first day of class, with all the older kids, I sat down in my chair, I got my saxophone ready, and put the music stand down, the teacher put the sheet music on the stand, and I just froze. And I froze because there were notes on that sheet music that I had never even seen or heard of before. Do you play music? Any of you play music? Yeah! Several of you do. Yeah, Tommy! Yeah! So you might understand what I was going through just starting out to play the saxophone, and all of a sudden I'm seeing notes that I never heard of before. Not only could I not keep up, I couldn't even get started. I went through that whole class without playing a single note. So the next day, for band class again, I couldn't go back to class that day. And the reason I couldn't go back is because I had forgotten my saxophone at home that morning. But the truth is, I didn't really forget my saxophone. I left it there on purpose. And I left it there on purpose so that I didn't have to go back into that room. So I didn't have to feel uncomfortable again. Because the same things that got me into that room with all of those older kids wasn't going to be what was going to allow me to stay there. So I left. And to this day, I always wonder what might have been, what would have been, if only I was more willing to step up and rise above those challenges. Because the same things that got us into this room aren't going to keep us here. In order to achieve success at a higher level, we have to be willing to do something we have never done before. In other words, to soar as an eagle, we have to step up. And speaking of